I tell people, they're like, have you been there? Have you seen the tunnels that are underneath New York?
What about Hillary Clinton? You know, under that pizza shop.
Exactly. Is she really, wear a face mask of a child that's been ripped off? And I mean, here's the thing. What I have seen is dark enough. What I've seen is bad enough. I've seen 8-year-olds being sold for. I've seen kids that were locked up in cells that were 5 foot by 5 foot cells with dirt floors, right? I've seen the worst of the worst. However, I haven't seen the tunnels. I haven't seen I haven't been to Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Right.
However, I can tell you what I do know, what I have been a part of, and my operators who have been there and what they have verified.
To Epstein's island?
Not to Epstein's island, but operators who have seen the tunnels, who have
what tunnels?
Yeah.
I thought this was a Pizzagate conspiracy theory joke. This is serious.
This is serious. Here's the thing. There's a book called Pawns in the Game. Pawns in the Game. It's so controversial that you're not going to find the audio version of it on
Amazon.
Amazon, anything. You can find the physical version of it, but you have to download some special weird app to have the audio of it, an audiobook thing. It was written about 100 years ago by some top-level military intelligence people who decided they would put everything at risk to just spill the beans on everything, right? Wow. And within it, he will drop a bomb at the first of a chapter, and then he'll prove it over the next chapter. And then he'll drop a bomb, and then he'll prove it. And
what are they alleging?
He's alleging and proving that back in the 1700s, Baron Rothschild made a covenant with the Luciferian order to have unlimited financial wealth for him and his family and unlimited power in exchange for putting humanity into a state of slavery financially, with our minds, with our world, everything. Right.
Gotcha.
And then he goes through and he shows how the even things like the Masonic order, that a lot of the Masons, the entry-level ones, there's a philanthropy, they're doing good, but it is a testing ground to test loyalty and make sure that the people who are rising in the ranks through there are completely loyal. And if they're not, they'll be cut off at a second or third or fourth level. By the time they get to the 32nd, 33 degree Masonic order, there's some really, really dark that's going on. Really dark.
These are Masons. They have chapters in every town and every country in the world.
Now understand this. I'm a Knights Templar, and I was knighted by the Knights Templar. I was knighted again by the Knights of Constantine. I was knighted again by Prince Lorenzo in Italy with that. So I've been knighted 3 times. Yeah. Right. I joke with people. I says, when you talk to me, you have to call me sir, sir, sir. Not just one sir, right? Doctor. I got. But the Knights Templar are a very different organization. Now, I don't bow down to man. I bow down to God and God only, right? Yes, I was knighted, but the covenants that I made were to protect humanity, period. Well, there are some really strange things that are going on in a lot of those Masonic temples, and he goes through in that book. And he has testimonials of people who have left the order all the way to the very top, talking about ritualistic abuse of children, right? Mm-hmm. I've had multiple people who have come to my healing retreats who had experienced ritualistic abuse.
Wow.
In their different religious communities from the Masonic order. I had one lady who came on to my Liberating Humanity podcast who was sold at 6 years old all the way through until she was 14 into some of these lodges and into some very high level political leaders in Europe and in Australia.
Did she name those leaders?
Yeah, she did name those leaders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Will we know any of them?
she's in her 60s now, so they're all out of office today.
Charles de Gaulle.
Exactly.
Sorry, just thinking of an old European. Tony Blair.
Exactly. You know, and here's the thing. It's the same thing that we're seeing here in the United States.
Right.
When you can get that degree of blackmail on somebody, then you promote them. That's what it is. You know, they get highly ambitious men and women who are corruptible.
Right.
It's going to be really hard for you to end up being the chancellor. You know, it's going to be really hard for you to be in a really high level political position unless you're corruptible in some way.
Totally.
So, because they have to have strings on you.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm never going to run for office.
No.
You know, because I'm not going to let them put any shit on me.
No.
I am 100% open book. You know, people will say, "Oh yeah, you know, Paul did this." Paul, yep, I did. I did. I'm 100% okay with anything that's out there because I've up as much as anybody else, but I don't have anything that they can hold against me that can silence me.
So, and the Masonic temples that kind of serve almost as like a Catholic church, the way that the Catholic Church was an institution providing cover for mass of young boys. The Masonic Temple is kind of the same thing, but it serves as blackmail to the child as blackmail for powerful people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And there's a certain trade-off when you'll do anything for money, for fame, for power, when that anything word gets in there, then you're corruptible, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I've said it before, but absolute power corrupts. I mean, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right?
Socrates.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of guys who will get into this position of money and ego and power where it starts corrupting them. And once they're at that level, now they can be a pawn. They can be a pawn in the bigger game. And this bigger game, I truly believe, is the great deception, is the enslavement of humanity. We're already slaves. We sit back and think, oh, well, I'm free. You're not free.
No.
You're slaves to your paycheck. If the inventions of people like Nikola Tesla were not completely taken over by our government, we could cut our workload down by half if we had free energy. Half, right?
Right.
There's no reason for us to be working 40 hours a week, because if they allowed us to, if they didn't tax the shit out of everything all coming through, if they didn't take away all of these abilities to have free power, et cetera, then we could be paying all of our bills and living comfortably at 4 to 8 hours a week instead of 40. And then we spend the rest of our time meditating and connecting. And then we realize that we're not controllable. And then they lose the game.